right, welcome to another Friday night episode of Keto Rocks. I'm Jim Hobbs, and down below, I believe, is my carnivore co-host, Brian Damage, PhD Forsythe. Tarzan man. How you doing, Brian?
I'm doing good, actually.
Been a great week for you?
Yeah, it went by quick, but yeah, I guess that means nothing crazy happened.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, we got a special guest, and I'm going to let you have the honor of bringing this guest on for us.
Yeah, this is my friend Ken Mills. I met Ken a couple years ago. I did that rockin' podcast thing, and uh, and Ken pulled me aside, and we were talking, discussing the whole keto carnivore thing. So yeah, I thought he's just got a good story, so I thought we'd have him on.
Absolutely. Well, welcome to the show, Ken. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. Thank you for having me on. This is a rare kind of thing. I'm usually the person doing the interview.
Right.
And not only that, I have the face for radio. So, but I am trying to keep up with the shag because we're in the shag gang, and
Well,
I
hey,
actually have my headphones.
Two of the three are. Look at,
Yeah.
I'm in the Shine Club, the Shanker Shine Club.
Brian and I can be on the front of the Cheap Trick record and you can be on the back.
I'll be on the backside.
It'll all work out. It'll all work out.
Yeah, you have no face for radio, brother. If they let me on the screen, they'll let anybody on.
Well, I'm just glad to be here. I'm glad to be anywhere. Brian, I want to thank you for not only being on one of my shows, but just for the great positive messages that you're putting out, not just about diet, but social things as well. And you just utmost respect. Plus, you and I have even more of a history, whether you realize it or not. I told you about this. I actually played in a band called Mr. Monster that opened up for you guys in Hammerjacks back
Right.
in the day. So,
Okay. I knew there was a further back connection.
but that was then. This is now, and it's been really cool because when I interviewed you, you had not yet started this whole thing, right? And I knew that you had this in you. So it's so cool to see it grow over time. It's been fantastic. So, you guys were talking about t-shirts before we all got started. For example, I'm wearing a Cheap Trick shirt because I love Cheap Trick. But not only that, this shirt was a shirt that I purchased back in the 80s.
Ah.
And it's a size 3 shirt, but I was a size 7. So, you want to talk about like change, it's there. The weird thing is that no matter how much I've changed in my head, sometimes I still feel that it hasn't happened. You know what I mean? But
Right.
that's kind of like a body dysmorphia kind of thing. But yeah, so I just love the work that you're doing as far as like diet and keto and paleo and all that. I'm pretty much more keto, and sometimes I do some paleo, but for the most part, I'm pretty much keto.
Hmm.
And it was really hard to stay, true during the pandemic. I don't know if you had any problems with that, but like when things like toilet paper and whatever, you can't get stuff, it's like really hard to like stay on it when you can't get the things that you need to stay on it. You know what I mean? And it was just kind of weird.
Yeah, it was
Gotcha.
weird. It was weird for a lot of people. Um, yeah, I'm lucky. I have my freezer stocked, and I just easily go.
So you're all set. Plus,
Yeah.
you have some in the backyard occasionally. You have friends that drop by. So your deer that are out there, the
Yeah.
beautiful backyard there. I am down 153 pounds since I started this whole thing.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's great.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I'd like to say most of it's hair, but no, sadly, it's not true. But but I started keto because I had a brother-in-law who had lost a tremendous amount of weight, and I just thought, there's no way. How does this work? Because this guy was a chunk like myself, and I was much worse than him. And I just I couldn't believe it. So it was over a Thanksgiving dinner. He brought some of his magic keto food over because when you try to explain to like normal people what keto is, the eyes glaze over and all of a sudden they're hearing German and they don't speak German. They just like, uh-huh, yeah, okay, that's nice. I'm going to eat this thing here. And they just go on about, but it's just weird. And then prior to that, I had a friend who like 12 years ago was sitting in my office at my house, and he's going on and about keto, and his name is Roy Myers. Hello, Roy, if you're listening. I really credit him a lot too, because even though those 12 years passed, he laid a lot of the groundwork as to what keto was and how it works, and gave me some of the science, but I was numb to it. He might as well have been speaking German, as I said. So it was different. And so I started to try it around Christmas of the year that I had a talk with my brother-in-law about it, and everything was going good. And then I wound up in a major health crisis. I actually got an infection and took a fall, and I wound up in the hospital. But I had lost like 25 pounds, like that, prior to falling and the infection. And when you're in the hospital, it gives you a lot of time to think. And these people would come in all the time to do like physical therapy and, trying to work out a diet for you, as doctors do. And you could see that they're thinking, because they're telling you these things that like, look, you need to change your diet, you need to do exercise, you need to change, you need to change, you need to change. And I would figure probably 75% of the people that they tell these things to just go, sure, just get me out of here. You know what I mean? And I told them, look, I found this thing, I've lost like 25 pounds, I'm going to do it. And you could just see them like, sure you are, sir. But I was able to stick with it. And one of the really neat things that was a great motivator was, as you know, I do a series of podcasts. I do a Kiss one, I do a Cheap Trick one, I do a Monkeys one, and I do another one that's just about pop culture and everything. And one of my co-hosts, well, actually, some of my co-hosts got together and contacted people. Like, for example, Gene Simmons called, right? And he's like, he gets on. I mean, I still have it recorded. He's like, listen, I hear that you're bothering the nurses there, so I want you to get out, come see me in St. Louis. And I actually have the recording, and Bruce Kulick called and Peter Tork called, and it was just a great incentive to like come back to the world strong, right? So I get out of the hospital and I go up to St. Louis, and Gene was doing one of those vault things that he was doing. And he came in, he hugged me, and he said, listen, we're going to have to talk later. And he had me come into this room where we were doing the vault thing. And he said, I want all the cameras off. And Gene Simmons says to me, do you want to live? And I said, yes, I do. He said, well, you need to start acting like it. You need to really change, because this person loves you and this person loves you, and a lot of people love you. And he said, what are you going to do to change? And, Gene Simmons, I'm sure you've met him, is a rather intimidating guy. And he kind of like, what are you going to do about your health? And it's like, so he kind of did a nice scared straight kind of thing, but it seriously. And then he said, okay, we're going to turn the cameras back on and we're all going to do our conversation and stuff. But it was really neat just to see what people who loved me were able to make happen. You know what I mean? That
Absolutely.
was something that was really cool. As far as like keto itself, so those are some of the outside forces that like, help me get it together. And I'm far from over on this, right? Because it's an ongoing thing. But my biggest problems when I first started keto was the lack of bread, lack of rice, lack of noodles, right? What was your thing that like, kept pulling you back in, Brian? Was it sweets, I think?
Yeah, cookies and cake. Yeah,
Yeah. But
and
once you,
pancakes.
yeah, but once you get that sugar out of you, it, you stop feeling the need for it. I have somebody who's starting keto, and she's been saying to me, I just feel like I'm hungry all the time. And
Mm,
I said, just get a ham, and just ham and cheese, and eat as much as you want till you're full. Let that fill what the sugar is trying to draw you back to, what the breads are trying to draw you back to. You know what I mean?
right.
Because the thing is that I've found about all of this is that our addiction to food is so much mental.
Hmm.
And, I don't want to get too deep on the psychology side of things, but like every time I go and get weighed, it's like I reach another level. And it's almost like a video game, except you're playing with your life, right? And the weird thing is that the more you find out about why you're gaining weight and about why you're numbing yourself with food, it's almost like somebody that gets a brand new house, and well, not a new house, an old house, and you tear up the floor because you don't like the carpet, right? And underneath it is another laminate, and you tear that up, and underneath that is something else, and then eventually you get to the bottom where there's this really nice wooden floor that you love. And I had been numbing myself with laminates and carpets and sweets and junk and garbage for over the years. So the more the closer I get to being myself, and I, somebody said once, if you keep losing weight, which I'm still, so I feel big, but they said, if you keep losing weight, you're going to disappear. And I said, no, 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 I'm going to be revealed,
Ah, beautiful.
because somewhere inside of me is the person I've always wanted you to see, that I really am. You know what I mean? Like I've always hated um people can say the weirdest things to fat people and not think that they're saying anything bad at all. And people think that like they uh train their kids to not be mean, right? But if I'm at a mall, or I was at a mall, it's nothing for a little kid to come up and go, "Mommy, that guy's fat." And the thing is that kid heard that from someone. You know what I mean? It was from mommy and daddy, right? Or whoever is in their circle. But like people will say, like, wow, you're a really good looking guy. Too bad you're overweight. It's like, well, gee, thank you. That's really not the nicest compliment I've ever had, but thanks for trying. But a lot of the food that I was eating was to numb myself and barricade the world out. And that was something that I've learned over the last year and a half.
Wow. You're talking, Ken, and I'm hearing the revealing of the real you, which is something that's very part about how I live. I look at people and treat them as the real you, because as you said, a lot of it's mental, a lot of it's in the mind. And even the people who you encounter on a daily basis, a lot of them are not able to see the real them. So when you
Right.
start to treat them as the real you, it starts to they start to see themselves differently. And if the whole world would start to see people as you see them, the real, if everybody got a chance to see the real Brian Damage, the real Ken Mills, the real Jim Hobbs, and every time we had an encounter, we saw them who we know who they were created in the image of, and perfect. And you're right. We, as our minds, as we get older, our coping mechanisms, we start to cover up. And that goes in all areas of our life. I mean, it just manifests itself in the physical. And so that's what most people see. But when we get below that surface, when we tear that carpet, tear that flooring up till we get to that beautiful hardwood floor that was always there, it's amazing. And then, you're talking about, cheap trick. What keeps going through my mind is that's a synonym for sugar. that's sugar's a cheap trick. It gets put in everything. And so when I keep hearing cheap trick, that's my mind goes to the industry that's creating this problem. And then they also try to create the solution for us by using not the real solution, another solution that they've created. When you, each one of us, all have the solution, which is to live a lifestyle that breeds health and not disease and death.
Absolutely.
So it's very powerful what you said so far. I appreciate what you're sharing.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate that, Jim. But I 9 times out of 10, there's a couple things that I go through every month. I will do a monthly weigh-in at the clinic. I don't do a weigh-in at the house, because if I did, I'd be weighing myself every day. And then you run into that, despair kind of thing. Oh, I didn't lose weight today, so I must be doing something wrong. Oh, I might as well give it up. Why try? Right. So I weigh myself once a month at the clinic. And when I do, I will then allow myself one day, one meal of badness, whatever it is. So I give myself that drug, right? It's kind of like a junkie getting a fix. And then you find yourself at some point going, why am I doing this to myself? Because what feels like a reward makes you nauseous, makes your hands tingle. You know what I mean? Like, I love like Reese's cups. I love, I could go on about my addictions, right? And I miss licorice, red licorice. But then you look at the ingredient, it's like red dye, crushed beetles. What am I eating? Anyway, but whenever I allow myself to have it, my entire arm starts tingling almost instantly. And then I noticed that like the veins on my arm will get really big real quick. And I was talking to a doctor about this, and he said that a lot of the people that are wrestlers, when they're going to do a photo shoot, they will like pretty much starve themselves of sugar for about a week. And then they do some sugar and everything flares up. That's why when you see the oil, when you see the pictures of with the veins popping and they're all oiled up and that sort of thing. They're actually using sugar as an enhancement to try to look bulkier. And what was the word you used? Inflammation.
Right.
People don't realize how much the sugar and the wheat and all this stuff. Like, I used to laugh at people that would say, "Oh, I'm gluten intolerant." Right. And I was like, well, I'm intolerant of people who are gluten intolerant. And then I found out, holy crap, I've never been diagnosed, but anytime that I cheat and eat bread, knee pain, it's right back. And, with carrying all this weight, for the longest time, standing up was such an issue for me. You know what I mean? And I'm not out running like a 9-mile thing every day or anything like that. Nothing like that. But just the fact that I don't have the chronic knee pain all of the time. And it also then, after a while, it works its way to the back. The back pain stops a bit. You know what I mean? So keto has not just been a way of losing weight. It's been a way of getting my life back in increments.
You said something, Ken, that I literally just had this conversation with somebody this week. Someone contacted me and they had fallen off the wagon, had wanted to get back on the keto reservation. And they're like, look, I just, is it okay if I just do 5 good days or 6 good days? And then I reward myself with, anything I want to eat. And I said, yeah. I said, look, you can justify anything you want. And I used to do that early on in my journey as well. I said, but you literally, this is where the rubber meets the road. This is where you got to look in the mirror and ask yourself, why am I going to put the poison as a reward? I mean, what's wrong with me that I'm going to reward myself by poisoning myself? It makes zero sense that that's what we believe, but we believe that. So the exact substance that we try to get away from, which we know is harmful to us, we then are going to mentally say, well, if I can go 6 days without it, then I'm going to reward myself with the exact poison that I'm trying to get away from. I said, now let me ask you this. And his name was Don. I'm going to give his last name. I said, Don, does that make sense to you? He's like, no. I said, all right. So then you got to keep asking that question to yourself. why do you believe that's a reward? Why do you believe poison yourself is a reward for doing something that's going to give you life? And he's like, it doesn't make any sense. I said, all right, so just keep that in the forefront of your thinking, because that is part of the poison that we get poisoned with. And trust me, I rewarded myself many times in my early journey that, hey, if I just, look, I dropped 10 pounds, I'm going to go have a Cinnabon at the mall, and or a hot pretzel with it. It makes no sense that that's what we do. We turn around and take 10 steps forward, and then we turn around and take 11 steps back.
Yeah. Well, it's like an alcoholic rewarding themselves with a drink. It's like it just keeps the addiction alive.
I haven't stubbed my toe in the last 10 days, so I'm going to hit it with a hammer.
Yeah.
There you go.
That's a perfect analogy, Ken. Beautiful.
But there's a, we've talked about science and we've talked about numbing ourselves in psychology. There's a big psychology in food as a reward. It really is a Pavlovian response kind of a thing. And it goes back to your childhood. It goes back to marketing. It goes back to everything. Like, you can live without heroin. You can live without alcohol. You can live without marijuana. You can live without smoking. You can live without those things. You cannot live without food.
Right.
So at some point, you either have to look at food as entertainment or programming. And sadly, we have entire food networks, the Cooking Network, and there's nothing wrong with the Food Network. There's nothing wrong with that. There's a million channels on YouTube about cooking, right? There's nothing wrong with that, except that food has become entertainment. If you think it's not entertainment, ask anybody, well, what are you hungry for tonight? Oh, I don't know. Poor people who don't have choices, they'll just go, food, I'll just, anything that I can eat, please. You know what I mean? But we are so spoiled in this country that we have 19,000 restaurants within 5 miles of us at any given time. There's food service delivery, and then you turn on the TV, and I had this uncle who had a cocaine problem, and he said that one of his biggest obstacles were TV commercials, because he would turn on the TV. He'd come home from working the second shift. He'd turn on the TV, he'd make his dinner, and he'd sit down. And at late at night was when you'd have all those anti-drug commercials, right? This is your brain on drugs. Yeah. And you do more drugs so you can work harder to do more drugs, so you can get more drugs, so you work harder, and you're on the wheel. And he was like, I'm just sitting here having some scrambled eggs, and all of a sudden they're telling me, don't do drugs. That thing you don't want to think about? Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. Drugs, cocaine. So that's, and then all of a sudden, so I turn on TV and I have to eat food, right? We all have to eat food. But is it come to Dairy Queen with the chocolate? And then you see like the lava mountain of chocolate going with the strawberry boat with the bananas in it and the chocolate and the ice cream and the fudge brownies. That's porn. That is food porn, just plain and simple. But it also, forget marketing for a second. Let's go back to our youth. I'm 57. My grandmother went through the Depression, and I think about my grandmother who went from seeing buggies to rockets, right? And she went through the Depression. Food equals love. Food equals love. Now, whether we think about it or not, someone would come into my grandmother's house. You would be set down. You look tired. Are you doing okay? Have you eaten anything today? And by the time you're done, grandmother's talking to you, and 15 minutes later, she gets you a hot plate, and then you're baking cookies. And I think about one of my most cherished memories of my grandmother's making Christmas cookies, right? But to her, providing for her family, because we were poor, but she found a way to make us survive. And she did that with learning how to cook and loving us and making sure that we had what we needed, right? And we're talking about 1960, whatever, things have changed so much since then. Like, I remember in the 70s when diet soda became a thing, and diet everything was diet. What are these? Well, these are diet potato chips. So what does that mean? I can eat the entire bag, right? When I was a kid, on Friday nights, one of the big things was roller derby or
Oh, yeah.
boxing would come on, or wrestling. And the neighbors would come down because we had a TV, and the whole house would fill up on Friday nights. And we'd make hot dogs with a bun and put the buns in the oven, and they'd be all nice and toasty and warm. And then everybody would have this much of a soda. It's almost like you're doing communion. You know what I mean? And now you've got kids walking around with a 2 liter and 80, milliliter thing. And that's not right. Nobody should be forcing that much down. And it's weird when you see people that like, I can't drink water.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Did you
know.
did you see talk about marketing? They actually have diet water now in packages. It's called diet water. I kid you not. Why? Because they programmed you with flavored water, and now they're going to turn around and sell you on diet water. So, if people if you're watching this, just realize, just drink water, and guess what? It's already diet. You don't need to do anything to it. But your programming that you're talking about, Ken, they program people because they hear the word diet. Oh, I can have more of this. And I can remember, I'm 57 as well, and everything you say I can totally relate to in regards to family. Always love was shown through food. Celebration was around food. I mean, if somebody you graduated from high school, it was food. If it was a holiday, it was food. We gathered around food. But as you talk about, we get programmed from a kid. We go to the dentist.
Mm-hmm.
The dentist sits there and says, oh, you got a cavity. And then after you're done, here's your sugar candy. They reward you with what? The exact substance that caused you to have the cavity.
Yeah.
And
you'll be back.
You'll be, exactly. And then we're told to, especially if you're my age, the parents of that age, you were to listen to adults. Well, what does adults do? You have Halloween. What do they give you as a reward? They give you candy. Mm-hmm. You're part of a sports team. What does the coach do when you guys win or after the game? They feed you candy, take you to a pizza, have pizza or ice cream at Dairy Queen. We're constantly rewarded with a substance that's really denying us our true self. And that programming from our parents keeps being passed down and passed down. And we believe cooking with love. So it's got to be a good thing, right? And mm-hmm. and Brian's helped me through this in the last 12 months. I had to reprogram my hard drive to realize that they were programmed by the programming that they received, and that I have to realize they meant it out of love. So now I just got to, you can still follow in that tradition, but you just can make keto friendly meals as a way mm-hmm. of celebrating. That way you're still promoting life. You're still celebrating because we all have to eat. I mean, we all agree with that, but it's just reprogramming ourselves. And it's, once you reprogram yourself, that's why it's so important. That's why I love meeting with people, because if I can get you to reprogram yourself, then we start to truly change the future generations. And so they look at keto and carnivore lifestyle as normal and mm-hmm. as love. And so we get away from what the food industry wants to promote and what the pharmaceutical industry wants to have as a solution. We have to realize that each one of us has the solution and the power to be able to sustain life and live a great life. So you be like Brian. I mean, you can be a rocker forever. And like Absolutely. You can, and share your testimony with others. That's the beauty of this journey, the impact that we have on ourselves, but the impact we get a chance to have on those who follow us.
Mm-hmm. And I'd like to say something to anybody out there who's trying to do this. I mentioned earlier about like the body dysmorphia kind of thing, where I literally, my mind will not allow myself to believe the victories and the hills that I've crawled over. You know what I'm saying? I will always be that fat little kid that was picked on. I'll always be that kid that stuttered uncontrollably. I have a very bad stuttering problem. And you may not hear it now, but I used to listen to like the radio stations of days gone by, like CKLW and all these AM stations. I had this little red radio that I would like carry around with me. Like, how do these disc jockeys not stutter, right? And then I found out when I imitate someone like Mel Tillis, when he'd sing, he didn't stutter. When I imitated someone, I didn't stutter anymore, right? So it was just another hack, another way to get around it. Um, as far as like a hack, one of the best things I can recommend is use your social media for you, make it work for you. I will put up every month. I don't tell people how much I weigh. That's none of their business, but I will tell them how much I've lost.
Hmm.
And the reason for that is because Facebook, for example, we all, those of us who are on Facebook, know that every once in a while you get that memory. Hey, Ken, here's a memory from 2 years ago, right? And I've had some like, my mother died. And it's like, well, thank you for bringing that up. I was trying not to think of that today. So I'm kind of programming my Facebook to come up and show me something good. Hey, I lost 3 pounds this month. And it's weird because some people say 3 pounds, that's not much. Yeah, we'll try and do it every month for a year or 2 years. You know what I mean? Try to reprogram yourself, because as I said earlier, food is either entertainment or it's programming. It's entertainment or programming, right? But use your social media to document your change. You will not only be an influence on yourself, but an influence on other. And it'll be a good thing because people say, hey, how are you doing this? What witchcraft is involved here? I'm cutting out poisons. I'm cutting out toxins. I'm cutting out death, and hopefully going to have a longer life because of it. Right. And it's weird because when you first start keto, you're lost, you're clueless, you don't know anything. Right. And you have to learn the science. You have to like use food as programming and program your brain in order to understand what's going on. So you go through this stage where you're like, you might as well get some like green gloves and freeze your hair out and wear goggles, because you're a mad scientist all of a sudden in the kitchen. Aha, I can figure something out. And you learn how to make pizza, right? Fathead dough. It's like, eureka, this actually works. But there's so many things, and then you start putting stuff together. I can make this if I do this and do that. And Brian, God love you, you're always putting the good food porn up. You're like, look at this chunk of meat with this egg on it and this thing. And Brian's actually friended people that kind of got hooked on my kind of thing, and I've turned them on to Brian because they're like, oh, this is great, because they're so used to seeing, here's a cheeseburger that I got at some restaurant, you know what I mean? They see what Brian's doing and it's like,
tomahawk, ribeye.
Well, yeah, it's funny though. I still get the comments, that people think I'm gonna die from eating like that. It's funny.
Keep proving them wrong, Brian. Keep proving them wrong.
well, don't you think it's weird that you always get these kind of comments like, well, you need to have bread, you need to, you actually need carbs, and
Right.
it's like, no, I don't. I've never heard anyone that, I'm sorry, ma'am, your husband died, he didn't get enough bread in his diet,
Right.
he didn't eat enough junk food, I'm sorry, he could have, had you just taken him to Pizza Hut every night, he would have been fine, he'd still be here. It doesn't work that way. I know that every doctor I've ever been to, some doctors, it's so rare to find the doctor that actually cared. The last doctor I had before the current one I have, first day I saw him, he says, you're going to die within 3 years. And it's like, what? And it's like, what are you basing that on? I know that I'm a chunk of a human being, larger than life, right? But you haven't done any blood work yet. You haven't done anything. And I could tell. I mean, I look at my skin. I can send you pictures if you can put them in the show if you want, of me with like a big bullfrog neck. And then, which by the way, if you take Ken Mills, which my name's down there, if you spell it backwards, it's thin. Ken Mills is slim neck.
Hmm.
So I'm working on it. So anyway, yeah, there was a time when you never would have seen this angle. It would have had to been the selfie angle. You know what I mean? The duck face and all that. But yeah, so your doctor telling you you're going to be dead within 3 years based on nothing, based on no tests, nothing. But it's weird because my skin was dark gray. It was actually starting to turn dark, and not in a healthy way. But when when people see me, they can't get over the difference in the color of my skin. And I can only chalk it up to this, the change in eating, programming versus entertainment.
Well, talking about programming, so I just want to, because I had the same experience, Ken. I remember my wife was with me, and Brian can relate to this, because my cholesterol numbers were so high. He came in and gave the you're positioning yourself to have a heart attack or stroke. You're in the 12% category in the next 5 or 10 years. I forget what he said, because I didn't really agree with any of it. I didn't accept any of it. Because just like us as kids, the doctors are programmed by the powers to be to say what they want them to say. And so they only know what they've been told they know. So I don't hold them responsible either, because that's not the real them. They got into their industry or to their practice to help people. And so, but they've been programmed by the people who programmed them. My point being is, if you've gone to a doctor and the doctor says what they've said to myself or what they said to Ken, do not agree with that. I want you to pretend that you are back a computer disk drive, and what they're trying to do is to put their programming in you. Just say no thanks, just say no thanks. Don't accept that about you, because if you accept that, then your mind's going to work to make that manifest and make it happen. So don't accept their programming. Just go, okay, I hear what you're saying. I don't accept that. And go live out your keto carnivore lifestyle that's going to promote life. And I just want everybody to truly, and I'm very, as you hear me, I'm passionate about people to understand that you have the power, you have the control. Don't give that power or control over to anyone, regardless of what their title is. You have it. Go live it. I don't care if you're raised by a baker who owned a cupcake factory. I'm telling you, unprogram yourself. And, there's ways to make cupcakes that are healthy. So go down that path, start being a solution provider, but breed health, and don't give your power away. That's the main thing I just want people to realize. Do not give your power away. Everything that you need is in you. Just go out there and live that out.
Yeah, and also knowledge is really, really powerful. Because I went through that same thing with a couple different doctors, where I had to change doctors because it was just like, they just didn't get it, and it made no sense what they were telling me. So I did my own research, and I just dove into it. And the more I learned, it's like, the more I could take care of myself. I didn't have to blindly follow somebody else's bad advice.
Well, I'd like to give a shout out to my current doctor, Dr. Vero Hodges, and his lovely nurse, Missy. They're great people that take great care of me. And you know what his prescription to me was? More keto.
That's good.
That is awesome.
That's very rare to find that.
Yes.
Well, he looked at my thing, and at the time I had only lost 100 pounds, which see how it sticks in your head. At that point, I only had lost 100 pounds. And he's like, keep doing what you're doing. Most people don't have these results. And it was so weird, because I remember the day that I broke 100 pounds as far as a loss. Someone had to tap me on the shoulder and say, that's real, and I took a picture of what was on the scale. And I expected confetti and glitter to come falling from the ceilings, balloons. And it's like, you actually did it for the first time in your life. But nothing happens like that. It's so weird that everything, as we were talking earlier about, there you go. But you have a birthday party and you get party hats and and everything. It's a party. We've got a cake and ice cream. You lose 100 pounds. Great job. I expected strippers to come out, something, something. But it was really cool that he was able to see on the chart and his eyes like, wow, so it was great to prove a doctor right in this case, because he's telling me to stick with it. So there you go.
Yeah,
that is rare. That's awesome.
And Brian, you've pointed out in our interview, you pointed out that the same people that own the food corporations that are selling you things that they know are not good for you also own a lot of places that make screw it all, for example, or any fake medicine or any medicine that's out there, right? Whatever pills they're trying to get you, because they give you the thing that makes you have the problem, and then they can sell you the pill that'll make it seem like the problem is lessened, but not going away.
Right.
But I found that, for example, my high blood pressure, gone, right? It just went away. Every pound I lost is getting me to a better version of me, revealing the person that's inside.
The real you, absolutely.
Yeah. As I call it, the big reveal, so that's kind of where that's from. But Brian, I think that you have a great way to use your voice, because you're a rock star, and most people, if you think about most rock stars like Ozzy Osbourne, it's like, oh, Sharon, and you really aren't getting good medical advice, and not that you're giving medical advice per se, but you are showing people a different way. So your platform allows you to have access to people that, for example, the doctors that have influenced you. You mentioned some of them before, like on the show you and I did. You have access to reach people that a lot of people who are in the know never had before. So, kudos to you for using this platform.
Yeah. I do feel lucky in that way.
Mm-hmm.
It is, and it's a good feeling when I can influence, another person.
Well, I think you do. I know that a lot of people, the feedback that I got from you is like, well, I've heard you talk about it, but now that he talked about it, it's like, whoa, maybe I should check this out. And it's been great seeing you grow as a broadcaster. You know what I mean? Whether it's your recipes or Keto Rocks or whatever, I just enjoy doing seeing you do what you do. And it was great. I know that it had to probably kind of freak you out a little bit at Rockin' Pod when I was like, hey, can we talk about your diet? It wasn't about your favorite guitar, what strings you use, who you grew up listening to. It was about like, I think we can do something here. So I really think that was a good episode too.
Yeah, well, the cool thing is, I'm passionate about music and, guitar gear, but I'm just as passionate about like food and diet and nutrition. I mean, I could go on forever on that topic.
Well, and I also thought that it was an interesting story in that you had your problems with substances, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the last drug was sweets.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you conquered all these things, and then you're at a truck stop as you're traveling to the next thing, and there's one of those spinning carnival racks of sweetness, you know what I mean? And you just go over and you take a picture. Like, you're almost like the guy who was like a ruthless hunter and instead just carries a camera out to the woods, right? Instead of and putting him on a plate and hang him on the wall, you're just good enough with a picture. Because if you follow Brian on social media, the cat's saying, don't eat this stuff, but look at this cupcake.
Right.
Because that almost gives you the high at this point, right?
Yeah.
And I've seen you make that ice cream that you make. That's pretty cool. There's a whole video you should check out on Brian's channel. So
Yes, he should, and you should make it, because I have made that recipe, that mocha express
Yeah.
mocha ice cream, and it is delicious. However, it can be a trigger for you, so you got to watch just doing that every so often. But
Yeah, yeah, like those cupcakes I made recently. People keep saying, "When are you gonna do the video?" And it's like, well, I don't want to. It's like I can't make them that often, so it's like
Right.
next time around I'll make the video. But it's like I can't have that stuff in the house, even the stuff that's you know keto friendly. It's still bad for me to eat that stuff.
Now, see, here's where you and I have to differ. I have no choice but to be around junk food. I can reach sour cream and onion chips. There's Oreos, golden Oreos as well. I can see them here, right from here, because I have a stepson who's not keto.
Mm, that's
So
hard.
see, I had to learn that if I make in this case, a keto cupcake or a keto ice cream or a treat of some sort, that's mine. Those are his, you know. You can have the junk, and every once in a while he like try stuff because he's like suspicious of it all, you know what I mean. He doesn't necessarily want to join the cult or join the religion or whatever it is, and religion is just a lifestyle for all intents and purposes, you know. It's whatever methodology you find, right? But so I had no choice but to see that bag for what it is. It's chemicals. It's almost like my mind did like a breakdown analysis. Like if this were a movie, I would Terminator look at the thing and he's like, sugar, sucralose, wheat, and just all, you know, no, you don't want that bag. You don't want that stuff. But because like, man, my thing was like Rose. I would always rationalize, like every drug addict or every junkie or every alcoholic or everybody with this up, you just, okay, I will just have this much. Like, for example, I mentioned Oreos, which are over there.
Mhm.
Okay, there's 4 things of Oreo in the tray. So if I have a quarter of one of those rows, then you next thing you know, you're 3/4 in. And it's like, but I told myself that I would only do that quarter, but it doesn't work that way. But I didn't have a choice to kind of like push everything out of my house. So my thing is that if I'm going to make an ice cream, or if I'm going, at least I know what's in it.
right.
Right.
At least I know where it's from and my motivation. So it stops me from going to Dairy Queen. It stops me from doing those things. So
You know, Ken, you say something, and a lot of people give me the excuses. Well, I can't really do the keto carnivore because my partner, my spouse, my children, they just eat that in front of me. I go, and I always ask this question. I mean, you're living it, so kudos to you. But I always ask that question. I say, okay, what's that got to do with you? And they go, what do you mean? I go, with you. I mean, are they holding you down and pouring it in your mouth and shoving
right.
it down your throat, or are you making a decision to say, you know what, I'm going to eat that? Because it all comes back to you. You have the power to not put it in your mouth. You can look at it. You can go, okay, I remember I used to put that in my mouth, but you don't have to. You have the ability to say no to that. And you should want to say no to that once you program yourself to say, you know what, I want to live. I'm tired of feeling the way I'm feeling. I'm tired of being on insulin. I'm tired of being on this drug, and this drug, this statin, this statin, this statin. I want to be free from that. And then, like you know, I still, just to be totally clean, I've been transparent. You know, I peanut butter is definitely one of my things that I just really have never really kicked. But I'll buy the, you know, raw. I mean, peanuts
Mm-hmm.
and just sea salt. That's it. There's nothing else
Mm-hmm.
in it. So,
Right.
you know, but again, your mind starts to play tricks on you, because you go, oh, well, it's good. It's like back in the 70s and 80s when they came out with low fat ice cream. Well, man, oh my gosh, low fat. I can eat as much of this as I want, you know, and I would go, hey, I can eat a whole gallon of it. The reality of it is, no, that I was just poisoning myself with stuff that I did not know was poison.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, I've had to reevaluate it. I don't purchase that anymore, so I don't have any. Peanuts is another thing that I would love watching sports. So I eat just bag of peanuts and I have peanuts. But then I read an article about how the chemicals they spray on the peanuts go into the nut itself from the shell. And so when you're opening peanuts, you're literally digesting that poison. So that turn around and turn that off. So I have to have something. It's a habit I haven't broke yet. So it's pepperoni slices for me. So I get a bag of pepperoni slices and that's what I eat. I just eat a pepper. And because of that, my weight's come back off. I'm back down to where I was. I'm not all the way there yet, but I'm real close. I'm probably 5 pounds away before the pandemic hit and we were locked in. So I'm not that far off.
Well, oh, go on.
Oh, I was going to say, yeah, Ken, you did mention, the picturing the ingredients. That's one of the tools I use, especially if I have a craving. And I think I shared this on one of our earlier episodes. For some reason I was out doing some errands and I just was craving a piece of carrot cake. And there's this one grocery store close to me that has a really good bakery section, and they sell those little slices of cake in the plastic container. And I justified going to that store because there was something I was looking for I couldn't find at my regular store. And I know I just wanted the cake and I just wanted to check it out. So I go there and there's the cake and I wanted it so bad. I mean, I came within inches of buying a piece of that cake, but I used the tool of I flipped it over and looked at that ingredients list and I just started reading them one at a time. I just went through that and then I finally just put it down and I still wanted it, but I just couldn't after reading that and knowing what those ingredients meant. It kept me from doing it, and that's a really powerful tool, and that's comes back to knowledge.
And I would not want to lead someone down a wrong path, but you're talking about peanuts on the scale of everything that, like, there's really bad and then there's really good, right? Peanuts is, it's almost like Dungeons and Dragons. This one's neutral good and this one's, chaotic evil, right? Some things are chaotic evil. Stay away from it. You're abandon all hope who enter here. But if peanuts is your worst problem, you're doing pretty good. You know what I mean? And I'd say this to people, and I don't want to lead anyone down the wrong path. So if I'm saying something bad, I just want everyone to understand that I mentioned earlier about having a Dixie cup full of soda because we had an entire brood we had to feed, right? So on those Friday nights when we have a hot dog and a soda and a small amount of chips, it was not an entire bag. It was not a 2-liter. We've lost moderation in this country, right? And the thing about, like, even let's say ice cream, and I'm talking dirty, nasty, evil corporate ice cream, okay? One spoon tastes as much as if you get a bucket. It's the same exact taste. I'm not going to lie to you. I love tater tots. I make my own tater tots out of cauliflower sometimes. But man, I was cooking something for my stepson. There's the tater tot. I had that one tater tot and I was done. And you know what? I sat there, my hands started tingling. But just remember that if you do taste something, there's a difference between a bucket of something and a spoon. There's a difference. And I'm not trying to get anyone to step into things that will trigger them or send them down a bad road. But it goes back to the psychology of it, right? The reason that you really want that ice cream is because you want to be, elbow deep into it or whatever. The reason you wanted that carrot cake was because of that 4th of July fireworks going off in your endorphins in your brain. Right. It's like, oh, that's really what you wanted. And then the crash, the tingle, and the depression. So that's the other side of that.
Right.
But all things in moderation, I guess, is what I'm saying. But I know what works for me and I know what doesn't work for me. And I know that all the times I was looking for comfort and numbness, those, you would think that if you want comfort, you wouldn't want to be numb, right? You would want to be able to feel the comfort. But I was actually pushing everything away with each pound, with each bad decision. And it's weird. It goes back to that psychology thing. It's about self-love. And I wanted love, I craved love, but I was doing everything I could to shut myself off from the world.
Right. Yeah, we posted on the Keto Rocks Facebook page today from John Youngkins from 1963. He's called Unlearn and Rethink. We now eat in 2 weeks the amount of sugar our ancestors of 200 years ago ate in a whole year. So just think
Insane.
about that. We eat that much sugar in 2 weeks, what our ancestors used to eat in a whole year. And we wonder why they're thin when we're just multiply those 2 weeks by 26 times. And how much sugar is that? That's 26 years we're rolling into 1 year.
And then extrapolate that a little bit further. What we're eating is not sugar. It is biometrically enhanced cyborg sugar. You know what I mean? And this is like the good stuff, man. You know, when I say good stuff, I mean this is the narcotic. This is the bad thing, right?
Right.
The thing that they're going to make the pill that'll help you lessen the symptoms of the thing that they're feeding you. So it's all a snake eating itself kind of a thing, a wheel within a wheel. But yeah, that's the sugar that and the bread and the sugar, like, you know, I mentioned earlier, man cannot live by bread alone, right? But there was a time when bread was, you made it with pure ingredients, you made it with what you had, and it was made in the kitchen. It wasn't processed, it wasn't chemically enhanced. And we did a survey of 3,000 people to get the, oh, this makes me feel this way when I eat it. It was just actual bread. But then again, it was programming. It was to get you to have energy to work the next day. And I'm a graphic artist by design. You know, almost everything I do involves a chair, seriously. And as a matter of fact, when I was thinking about this show today, I did a search for a Zoom background thing, and there's a chair you can get that has a green screen that you pop, like it just imagine who in, I never thought I'd see a chair that you have a button you can push and it makes a green screen so you can be in Acapulco or outer space. You know, who buys a chair based on a background? But you know, but it's the same with food. Who ever thought that sugar would not be sugar? It would be super sugar. It would be Terminator sugar. It'd be enhanced. The same with your bread. Everything's enhanced or enriched.
Right.
You know, enriched with what? Is it something I should actually be eating or not? Because you're not enriching my life. You're actually doing the opposite.
Devaluing. Yeah, you're devaluing your life.
Yeah. I'm sorry, guys, because I'm a host of so many different shows. I can't help but start hosting the show. So I apologize.
No. I've enjoyed having you on. You've made a lot of valid points. You're living a lifestyle that's going to encourage others around you who see this. And I'm
Right.
sure around you are going to go, Ken, what are you doing? So on that note, Ken, can people reach out to you on social media? What platforms are you on? Can they reach out to you on?
They absolutely can. But I want to say one last thing about, you mentioned earlier about, like, for example, my stepson's here and he's got his food and I have mine and so on and so forth. We were talking about, you mentioned where someone is saying, well, if my wife is eating something and my son's eating something, it's like, you haven't been living in America, have you? You haven't been paying attention, because if someone sits down to eat, almost every parent has to cook 5 different meals anyway. Whether it's the little kids who only want Nick McNuggets and they've never actually seen a chicken or meat on the bone. There was an adult college student that came here one day and he had never eaten chicken off the bone. Couldn't do it. He said it made him sick, but he could eat nuggets, he could eat pieces, he could eat chunks, but never off the bone. And like, you should know what you're doing. If you eat an animal, that animal gave its life to feed you, right? So you should know what's going on here. But if you have 5 people in a house, chances are you're making 5 meals, whether you realize it or not. This person wants this person will only eat that, this person will only eat this with that on it. And oh, I can't eat that thing. So you're making 5 meals anyway. That really is less and less of an excuse, because we as an American have been programmed that we want it our way right now, instant. Everything's microwave or drive through or drop off. So that's really not a valid excuse, because chances are you're already making, if you have 3 people, you're making 3 different meals.
Well, if you just go the traditional, let's go with meat, vegetable, and potato, you know, cook all that. Just eat the meat. Just be like Brian, just eat the meat. You can bypass the potato and the vegetable. You don't need that. And if you're keto, you can have, you know, whether it's broccoli or asparagus, go ahead and have a little bit of that. So you can make choices. Again, it comes down to you, the choices that you're going to make for you in your life. So.
Exactly. I'm sorry to have interrupted you earlier at that, since you were talking about me. Yes, folks can reach out to me on social media. I'm at Nightwing Ken on Twitter. I'm also at Zilchcast on Twitter, and I'm also at Podkist at Twitter and at Pop on Twitter. You can find me on Facebook as Ken Mills. So there you go.
So there you go. Reach out to Ken. And Ken, wow, thank you so much for joining us today. It's been an awesome get together, and I've learned a lot. So thank you for sharing. This
was such an honor to be asked to be here, because when you think about it, a guy who's morbidly obese, and one time I remember I went to a doctor, it was this Vietnamese doctor, and he was like, "We need to talk. You are morbidly obese." And I said, "Well, I'd like to think I'm actually pretty jovial about it." And he said, "This is not very funny." And it's like, oh, okay. He was serious, Jack. You know? But if I would have ever known that I would be on a show that is based around healthy living and weight loss, there's nobody that ever would have said, "Yeah, Ken will be a guest on that someday." You know,
it just goes to show you that you can be whatever you want to be, that you control the programming that goes in you. So I'm glad you joined.
You are not losing weight. You are not losing yourself. You are being revealed.
That's beautiful.
That's what it is. Peel it back. Peel it back. Reveal the wooden floor. All right. Well, thank you for having me on, guys.
Thanks, Ken. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, everybody. It's that time of the evening where we get a chance to hear from Mr. Brian Shanker from the Meat Tribe YouTube channel. Brian, what kind of deals we got for this week?
Hey, guys. So I wanted to kind of change it up a little bit. I know I haven't been doing this channel very long, but last week with your meals under $5, and then Brian's posts with his Costco catch with all the stuff that he got, I thought it would be a good idea to compare. I have a membership at both Costco and Sam's Club, but I go to Sam's Club more frequently. But I wanted to compare some of the prices that you get at those types of stores versus the other chains. So the first one, Sam's Club, they've got a 90% ground beef that they're selling for $3.58 per pound. And I know when you and I spoke previously, you had mentioned that anything under $3 was a good deal. And we had a couple of weeks ago, mid-May, actually last week, I think it was, Giant had 90% lean ground beef at $2.99 a pound. So you can see the price difference there, about almost 60 cents. And also the Sam's Club had some strip loins. They've got choice and prime grade. The choice is $11.98 per pound, and the prime is $13.98 per pound. And currently, Harris Teeter has a choice grade boneless strip, New York strip, at $8.99 a pound, and it's regularly priced $15.99 a pound. So Harris Teeter, when it's not on sale, $16 versus $12 to $14 at Sam's Club. But now that it's on sale, $8.99 per pound. And then to further examine what's going on with these stores, for ribeyes, your favorite cut, my favorite cut of steak, Sam's Club has some choice and prime grade boneless ribeye steaks at $12.98 a pound and $15.98 a pound. So $13 and $16 per pound. And Harris Teeter a couple weeks ago had the same type of steak on sale for $8.99 a pound. So almost half the price. Regularly $15.99 a pound for those as well at Harris Teeter, but when it's on sale, around $8.99 a pound. And then the last thing I wanted to compare, at Sam's Club, they've got some tenderloin filet mignon, prime grade boneless at $21.48 a pound. That's quite expensive. And at Harris Teeter a couple weeks ago, they had the same thing on sale for $13.99 a pound. So that is a huge savings there compared to Sam's Club. And you guys were talking about getting those meals for $5 and under. This is a little bit more than $5 a meal, but you're saving a significant amount of money when you're buying the stuff on sale. And then so my favorite deals so far this week would be the Harris Teeter choice grade boneless New York strip or steakhouse roast for $8.99 a pound. And Jim, I know you were stocking up on ground beef a little while ago, but Giant Eagle's got some 80% ground beef value packs at $2.49 a pound.
Hey, thanks for that. But that Sam's Club for $3.58 for the 90/10, is that just their regular pricing, or is that a special they're running?
No, all the Sam's Club prices that I gave today are just what their prices are regularly. Sam's Club doesn't do a lot of discounts, and when they do, it's a couple of dollars off here and there. But I don't really see price fluctuations like big sales at Sam's Club or Costco. It's typically that's the price that they're running for maybe a month or so, whatever it is.
Well, that's a really good price for 90/10 at $3.58 a pound. That's way cheaper. You're going to get at any local grocery store for sure.
Right. So quick story. I wanted to tell you guys, you may not have this problem because you've got that griddle and the pellet grills, but I ran out of propane gas the other day mid grill.
Oh.
I was grilling I have this keto recipe for some boneless, skinless chicken thighs. And it's basically some parsley, paprika, salt, pepper, garlic, and onion powder. And my son loves it. And so I was cooking them up. I was grilling them up and put them on the grill. And then I went out there and the grill wasn't hot. I was like, oh my goodness. And I should have known better. I have 2 propane tanks on hand. So one that I'm using with the grill and then my backup. My backup ran out a few months ago and I never got it filled back up.
Oh.
So I had to yank everything off the grill, put it in a baking dish and put it in the oven to finish it off. And it still tasted good, but you know how that is, baked in the oven versus grilled. So it did have a little bit of the grill flavor.
Yeah, you should go back and listen to one of our earlier shows, I think around Thanksgiving, that I tell my Thanksgiving smoking story for a turkey, because that's a family legend and my family in regards to that story, because smoking a turkey right in the middle of it, we run out. And it's Thanksgiving Day, so guess what? There was nothing open.
Yeah.
So yeah, it became a marathon smoking session to get that turkey on the table the next day or that night.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, that's never fun when you're running out of gas. And I have a gauge on my propane tank too, so I can see. So I know when it's running low. So I should have known better.
Wow. Well, there's a lesson in there for everybody. Make sure you have a spare propane tank, especially if you're smoking or cooking on a holiday.
Yeah. I presently have an empty backup tank.
So you gotta go. You gotta go replace it, Brian. You gotta go refill that tank.
Yeah.
Well, thanks, Brian, for an update. And for anybody who wants to find more deals than the ones he just talks about on our show, go to the Meat Tribe YouTube channel, subscribe to his channel, and if you come across a good deal in your neighborhood, comment on his channel so other people know where to get a good buy.
Yeah, that would be great. If people go over there, like the videos and subscribe and click on the notify bell so you'll get notified every time I upload a new video. Thanks, guys.
All right. We'll see you next week.
Sounds good.
All right. Hey, Brian, real quick. I know we're running a little bit over, but what about an update on the book? We haven't talked about that in a couple of weeks. What's that update on how the book's coming along?
Well, yeah, Steve just reached out to me this morning. How's the progress? Yeah, I haven't gotten it back to Steve yet, so I'm still going through it and double checking my corrections to make sure I didn't miss anything.
Okay, awesome. So we still believe we're going to have it ready by August.
Maybe.
All right. Well, what bit of advice for people tuning in for the first time would you leave them with?
I would say eat your meat.
Absolutely. All right. We'll see you guys next Friday. Stay well, stay safe, and stay out of that hospital.
And thanks, Ken, again.
Thank you.